everyone. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live session with some of my best tips and tricks for SOLIDWORKS. So before we begin, I would just like to introduce myself. My name is Lennart Tinndahl. I have 17 years of experience with SOLIDWORKS. I also dabble in PDM and 3D experience. I'm a co-author of the SOLIDWORKS tech blog, and I've presented at 3D Experience World in 2022 and 2023. I've been with PLM Group for 6.5 years, and as of 2022, I became an elite application engineer. You may also know me from my LinkedIn series, Tyndall's Tip from the Train. And on a more personal note, I was born in 1975, making me 48 years old. 40, yeah. I'm married and have 3 children, and I live in Højby in Denmark. So, with that, hello, let's look a bit into our agenda for today. So first, we're going to look into how to work smarter, not harder. And after that, it might be time for a bit of Q&A. So, not a lot going on there, so let's expand this a bit. Working smarter, not harder. That term actually originated from 1930s with the industrialist Alan F. Morgenstern. He used this term to describe a simplification program which aimed to increase production in less time. However, the not harder part has become a bit redundant, so let's just remove that. And instead, let's look into how to work smarter in SOLIDWORKS. First, we have customizing your workspace. There's no definitive answer to this, but this is merely, for me, this is just a way to show you how you can customize your workspace. Next, I will be looking into Know Your Features. This is the live section of the presentation, where we'll show you how some of my favorite tips and tricks in SOLIDWORKS. And lastly, we'll have a bit of Q&A. So let's look into customizing your workspace. Seems like my camera has gone off. Okay, customizing your workspace. Okay. First, when it comes to customizing your workspace, there's no definitive answer. When looking at different workspaces, I think I've seen pretty much them all. I've seen something like this, where basically every toolbar is visible, depending on your screen size. Of course, that could also limit your workspace. And then I've seen something like this, basically no toolbars and everything relies on shortcuts. As I said, there is no definitive answer. This is merely a guide to how you can set up your workspace. So, when you want to start your customizing your workspace, either open a new drawing and a new part, or an existing drawing, and right-click on your toolbar and press Customize. So first, you have the option to activate different toolbars. So the next thing you can do is to change the icons or customize your shortcut as a shortcut toolbar. This toolbar you can find by simply pressing S within your SOLIDWORKS. You can customize both your assembly, your drawing, your sketch, and your parts. You can also use this and search for different parts, for different shortcuts, of course. For instance, if you search for fillet, you can just take it and then just drag it down to here. Great. And you can also, of course, remove it by dragging it back up. Next, we have your commands. These commands are located on your toolbar. So, for instance, if you want to add some more commands to your toolbar, you can find them in here. Again, you can search for them as you did before. And we can just drag these into our toolbar within SOLIDWORKS. Great. Okay. Next, we have the keyboard commands, basically all your keyboard shortcuts. As with the previous tabs, you can search for the shortcut you want to use. And there we go. And you can easily just assign your own shortcut, for instance, Shift F. If you assign a shortcut that is already in use, let's just say Control S, then you will of course get a warning. Do you really want to change this, as you don't want two shortcuts to the same command. And then we have mouse gestures. Mouse gestures, to activate the mouse gesture, you hold down your right mouse button and move the mouse in the direction of the command. So basically, and you also have the option to set different gestures to see how many gestures you want within a selection. As you can see, this applies to both part, sketch, assembly, and drawing. Okay. Just going to check if my camera works. Nope. Weird. Okay. So let's move on to know your features. This is what I call the live part of this presentation. So if we just move on to that, here we go. Let's see. Here we have your basic SOLIDWORKS layout. So before we get started, I just want to look into a few options. So we can either use the shortcut here, or we can use the tools. For some reason, I always use this. I don't know why. Use the tools and then the options. Okay, so within this, I just want to make sure a few ground rules is set when I use this. First off, I want to make sure that auto rotate view, normal to sketch plane, is turned on. This will ensure that when I create a sketch, it will rotate so I can look directly at it. That's a good one to use. Enable on-screen numeric input on entry creation is also usable. It's also a good one to use. Then you can actually, I will show you in just a second what you can use it for. And also, you only want to create a dimension when a value is entered. This means that whenever you create a sketch, then you automatically get the option to create a dimension. But for the first part of my demo, I just want to turn these two off. And I'll show you why in a minute. One thing that always bugs people is if the sketch is not fully defined. As we all know, fully defined every time is the way to go. You can set a rule that says you need to fully define your sketch before you can exit. This is a good setting if, for instance, you have many users that do not fully define their sketches. You can set this, but as a general rule, for this demo especially, I don't want to use it. So for now, we just make sure there's a check mark in auto rotate view, and we move these check marks here. Okay. So now I just want to create a sketch. So I can of course click here, but I can also just press. I can also create front plane here. I'm going to, as you noticed, it's rotated, and then I'm just going to create a new line by using a shortcut L. So if I just create a line here, and okay. I think most of you know this little rule, this little thing where you can just move your sketch back, your line back just a bit, and then you have there we go, and then we have the arc. Sometimes that is not you cannot always hit it. So what I usually do is I usually just use the A button, which is the shortcut for that. So here, as you can see, it's yeah, okay. But I'm just going to create this. There we go. And another line, and okay. So if I want to create a new sketch, I want to, for instance, use the horizontal. I'm just going to click here. If I hold down the Alt button, you can see in the left side, you can see the horizontal and the vertical, the H and the V are underlined. That means that I can use these shortcuts. So for now, I think I'm going to use H to create a horizontal line. And as you can see, okay, here it starts off at a horizontal, and if I want to change, I can do that also. So there we go. If you want to move your sketch, I mean, I can of course click here and then go up to my shortcut, move, copy entries. However, I'm a bit lazy, so I'm just going to use the shortcut I can use. To copy a sketch, I can just select everything and hold down Control and just drag it. That's so I'm just going to, there we go. And I am just going to, and instead if I want to move it, I can just select it all again, hold down Shift and move it. One thing to notice here is that it keeps the constraints that you have created, meaning I've constrained it to this, towards the origin, which means if I try to move this, it will stay locked to that. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to use this in a minute. Okay. Next up, there is the power trim. The power trim tool is also very efficient. Let's see how we can do this best. Okay, I'm just going to move this. Hang on. And I'll hold down Shift and move. There we go. Good. So the power trim, as I said, is a very powerful, good tool. You can of course use it to just drag here and there and there. But you can also use it the other way around by using extend, power extend. That's actually just by selecting the power trim and holding down the Shift button and just using extend. These are just some quick power from my favorite tools here. I'm just going to check. Nope. The camera's still not working for some reason. Okay. So if we just move, okay. So what I want to do now, I want to just show you, I have created this chessboard. For this, I want to create a, well, not a functioning clock because let's be honest, we don't have time for that. But I want to create a clock that we just can use for just to have it to look nice. So let's see. If I go into, so go back to our sketch. Okay, so if I just create, this just show some of my tools. So first, before we do this, I just want to go back to my options within Sketch and enable these ones. So I get so I can get to do a dimension. And I want to create dimension every time. So if I go here, and so here we go. So here, I'm not going to use that. I just want to have this one. Just press tab and I can switch between the two dimensions here. And this one I'm going to add to 300. Okay. So that didn't create a dimension, as I hoped. There we go. So next, I want to make sure that this is always half the height of the length of this. The height is always half the length. So I'm just going to click here, equals 300. And by doing this, it will become a very dynamic model that I can easily change if I want to. So just going to do divided by 2. And okay. Next, I will just be using the extrude boss base feature. Now, I want to create a hollow box for this. So, of course, I could use the thin feature here with one direction, and I want to, but we're just going to make this, I think 50. No, I think 150. If I want to create a thin feature here, I can also use cabins, of course. And I just want this to be 1. I think 5 millimeters would sound good. And Good. I want to create a cap end. The reason why I'm doing, and I want to do this in 2 directions, and the reason why I'm doing this is because for some reason we can't use cap ends when you have the middle feature. If we use the mid plane, we can use cap ends when using thin features. So I'm just going to take one direction, blind, and there we go, and cap ends. That's good. Okay, next, I just want to add a few a fillet here. So if we go fillet and we say 5, I guess that would be good. Just going here and here. So just going to, I want fillets all the way around here, so I'm just going to say okay, and there we go. Hang on, I think I just made this too small. Going back 50, okay, so I'm just going to make this 75, I'm saying 100, yes, and 100 again. That looks better. Now, within this clock that I'm doing, we can just see that this is in fact hollow. So within this, in this clock, I want some faces, and I also want some button on top of it. For me, I actually want to see if I can use the same sketch for both these holes I want here and these holes I'm going to have here. To do this, I'm going to the top plane and creating a new sketch. There we go. So normally what I would do is to create a sketch with, there we go, with 3 points here. And then just make these equal. And I'll make this 15 millimeters. Oh, not 150, 15. 15 millimeters. I could, of course, this was my previous way to do it, but as I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this correctly, asked if I could use a segment line, and of course I can. If we just, I think that's, so instead of that, I'm just going to create one line from this point to this point and make it 15 millimeters. What I can do now is I can use a segment. Okay. I'm just going to find that segment line. Let's see here. It's a segment here. And so what I want 3 points as I had before. So I'm just going to add 3 points. There we go. And that's it. Now I have, this is still one line, but I now have 3 points I can use for my sketch, as I will show you in a minute. So this is basically in here, it is in the middle, and here's 15 millimeters from the middle. So if we just say okay, and then we're just going to create a new sketch on the front plane. Here we go. Again, we have multiple ways of doing this. The first one is, of course, you can use, just create these two and make them equal. And just add the measurement to the one here. Let's go to 100. Oh. And if I create, and the great thing about using this is I'm not dependent on any sort of face. So if I remove some faces, it's not an issue. So I'm just going to use this from the plane. So if I use an extrude cut, there we go. Just want both of them. And we say through all, and the other way around, thank you. There we go. Now, for the top, I want some holes for buttons for the clock. And here I'm just going to look into the top plane again. And if we just create a new sketch, it will rotate nicely. So here I'm going to create one sketch. This is another way of doing it. I'm just going to add a measurement. I think I'm going to use 20 millimeters. Instead of just doing another one, I can also use the mirror entries. So I can mirror that. I'm going to mirror this with the right plane. Oh, there we go. The right plane. And there we go. Again, I'm using the plane, not the face, to do my sketching. This will also make it easier when in another exercise I'll show you in a minute. So again, extrude it cut, and that way through all. There we go. So what I want to show you next is I have, of course, cheated a bit in advance. So I have created one called Replace Entries. This is basically the same, as you can see, but now I have added a few things to my sketch. As you all know, designers can sometimes change their mind when it comes to sketching. So if we look at this sketch here, you can see that this has there's a few other suggestions on how to create this clock. Now I can of course just say okay and make this so like that and like that. Oh, there we go. There we go. And for construction. So we have that. Now as you can see, this does not work at all. There's something so wrong here. So I'm just going to go take that away. Okay. So instead, what I want to do is I want to use the Replace Entity button. So see, I think I have it here. Oh yeah, there we go. So the Replace Entity, that I can select this, and I'm going to make that a construction, and this one I'm going to make that a contour, and then just press that one and say okay. So now we have created another look, and this actually also works. That's also very good. But what happens if we just go back a bit? And there we go. But what if I want to use this? What if I want to use the this one? This has only one line, so I'm afraid that that's one limitation. You can't say, for instance, segment. You can say replace, and then you can replace one entity with multiple. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to go into the Tools section and go into Sketch Tools, and we're going to use, see if I can. We're going to use Split Entities. This actually gives me the option, so I can just say, okay, I want to split my entities, for instance. It doesn't matter, actually, where I want to split it, as long as I have the same number of lines. So I'm just going to split that. Okay, now my line is 2 different lines. So that's ready. And if I take my Replace Entity, I can say I want this one. I'm still construction and make contour, great, and that one. Okay, and again, this one replaced with that one. So as you can see, we already changed the look here. Now, as you will, of course, will notice, this the fillet does not appear on that. That's because it's a whole new face that has appeared. So instead, we just need to correct this. I can, of course, do this. Let's take a drag and drop. Okay. Nope. That's it. So if I just take this and see if I can do that. Yeah, there we go. Just hold down Control and drag and drop it. Then you can, okay, then maybe we got it too much here. So we're just going to go here, and then we need to. So I'm just going to. So what we can do instead, so that's not good. So what we can do instead, actually, is just we take this, delete. So we just roll back, take our fillet and drag it on, and then just create our holes. So that is one way to use replace entities. Another way that I actually want to show you is one I actually think is very overlooked. So as you may have already have guessed, I have already created a chest timer here. That looks nice. So if we look at, see if I can find it here. Okay, so since if we look at, let's take this one, let's go to example. So we have the circular pattern, and there we go. Yeah. So one thing you actually can use with the, so if I just go, actually use it to change your text also. So if we just go here, and so if I take, for instance, so if I want to move this up here, I will just use the replace entity again. So that one, and I'm not going to make it contour, it should still be like that. And there we go. So if I just press, as you can see, it's a much easier way to move your text file, your text if you want to, but I'm not going to use that here. So just go back and okay. So moving on, let's look at this clock that I've already created then. I'm just going to go back here, shut this down. Nope, don't want to change anything. Okay, so this clock face, as you can see in this side, I've already created, hang on, that's the second hand. As you can see here, the second hand, the minute hand moves one minute whenever the second hand moves a whole round. And the same thing also goes with the hour hand. If this one moves for 1, there you go, then we just move for, as you can see, it moves exactly like a clock. I don't have an animation with that, but it should be doable. Now, what I want to do, I want this clock, I want this one. As you can see, I've created an easy way to make these two moves. So when this one stops, so that's basically how a clock works, that you get to start it. So if we just go to our, I'm just going to delete. So there we go. Okay. So how we do this? As you can see here, I've created a limit distance mate here. I'm just going to make this. There we go. And yeah. So as you can see here, I've created a limit distance that only allows it to move this close. So there's a limit there. That's good. So if I want these two to move accordingly, so I move this one down here. So what I can do is I can go into mates and advanced mates, and then use the linear coupler mate. So first I'm going to select this, and then we're going to select this. See, right now they're moving in the same direction, so we don't want that. We also want them to move 1 to 1. We don't want any ratio movement. So we're just going to go here. That's it. And so if I go down, this will move accordingly. Next, we have the clock. So right now there's no connection here. This just moves pretty much as it wants to. And let's see, I've just determined that the large hand is the minute, this one is second, and this one is hour. The hour, every hour. So in order to make this move according to standard, I would say, I'm going to use the gear mate. So if we go into the gear mate, mechanical, and I'm just going to select gear. So first I want to make sure I have selected the second, and then that one. Okay. So we say ratio 1 to 1. No, we say ratio 1 to, and since it is in seconds, one of them have to move 60 when the one moves 1. So we're going to move ratio 1 to 60 and see how that works. See if I got the correct one. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see. So, oh, that's the clock face. There we go, I think. 1, 2, 16. So if we, okay, then let's just move backwards. So it's going to go reverse, I think. Let's see if that works. So there we go. So now it moves accordingly. And the same thing actually goes with the other one. We just say this and this, but then we want to use a gear mate, and it's 1 to 12 because there's 12 hours. There's 12 strokes on the clock, so we don't want to 12. Get this working. Something is moving backwards, I can see. So just going to reverse there. Go and see that just. So okay, hang on. So now we just need to. So if I move this, you can see this moves exactly like a clock. Once this is done, we are ready to use this within our assembly. Let's have this. So if I go to the chessboard here, I already have one ready for you. So this is a default that I'm going to use. So we're just going to have all these. So as you can see, these are not attached in any way. So I'm just going to drag all these out here. There we go. This is a good example. So if I want all of these to be on this chessboard, the easiest way to do that is actually just to hold down this and then ensure that you create multiple mates at once. So here I'm going to select the chessboard and then select all the components I want to mate to this chessboard. So I'm just going to select here, 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 and there we go. So now these will of course be. So now you can of course adjust these the way you want to be located in the proper place. No, I won't. So let's see what else we have. So if we look at this one, actually looks kind of great. I'm just going to delete these mates. As you can see, it creates multiple mates when doing this. So I'm just going to go print Control Z, and there we go. Okay. So if we, for instance, look at this one, mate error. Oh, there we go. This looks pretty okay, but if I go into my assembly, and I have multiple mate errors. Now, one issue with this is, I mean, this is kind of easy to look into, but let's say that we have many more errors with the mates. So what we can do is we can sort this just by clicking, go into group mates and use group mates by status. So by doing so, we can easily find out which ones are solved, which ones are coincident, which one are solved, which one are defined, and we can then easily clean up. So for instance, I just want to, there we go. And now I actually only have solved or suppressed mates. That's kind of easy to find. That's also one thing I would like to point out. Sometimes it's a good idea just to use the suppressing of mates, not to delete them all at once, because you don't know if you're going to have to use them in another configuration. So let's see. If we also want to create an exploded view of this, let's see. We take this one. So this is all done. Everything is everything's located as it should be. Yeah. So what if I want to create an exploded view? Most of you also know it's quite easy to create new exploded view. And then we can just say whatever we want. But what if I already have an exploded view? I have an exploded view here of my chest timer. So we're just going to we explode from subassembly. So I've already created one. Okay, maybe I didn't have it. Okay, so I didn't have a subassembly, have an exploded view on this for some reason. But you can easily reuse your exploded views if you have one. So just by using reuse explode. So if we move on to our drawing, I just want to show you a few features from SOLIDWORKS 2023, actually. So if we move on to our drawing here. And okay, there we go. Just open the drawing. Okay, that's kind of. So, there we go. One thing that I think is very cool within SOLIDWORKS 2023 is the ability to sort your drawing, to sort your bill of material. For instance, if we want, well, we only want something that has mahogany in it. So we're going to do that. And then, well, that's just a chessboard. So that's basically, let's see, what else do we have? Maple, maybe. I think that's, yeah, then we have all the different chess pieces that have maple. And this will also be shown. Let's see if I can do this correctly. So if we just quickly go, say all, press here, no, it's that one, and then press Alt balloon. This is okay. So this is kind of big. So, and then press OK. So if I, for instance, say, okay, I only want mahogany, I only want oak on this, then I only get only the ones that's on this bill of material that is shown within your balloons, which is, I think, is quite cool. One more thing that I also want to show from 2023 is actually the ability to open drawings from within a drawing. So, for instance, I don't have a drawing for that, but if I had, I could actually open the drawing from another drawing. That is also a new thing. And I think that is all for now.